I handed over the evidence that could have destroyed my brother and smiled quietly, knowing it would save the rest of our family. My brother Ansel had been using our grandmother's social security checks to fund his underground poker games. For 8 months, I watched him forge her signature and cash her $1,400 monthly payments while Evelyn sat in her nursing home, completely unaware her monthly income was disappearing into thin air. I'd been building a case against him like some deranged private investigator obsessed with family justice. Bank statements showing suspicious deposits, security footage from 3 different check cashing places where he'd show up every month like clockwork, even audio recordings of him bragging to his gambling buddies about his foolproof retirement fund system. I had enough evidence to send him to federal prison for elder fraud and mail tampering. But here's what I discovered that shattered my entire worldview and made me question everything I thought I knew about my brother. Ansel wasn't keeping a single dollar for himself. Every cent was going toward experimental gene therapy for his son Oren, who had Batten disease, a rare genetic condition that systematically destroys the nervous system. Most kids don't live past their 15th birthday. Oren just turned 9, and his decline was accelerating. The insurance company had denied coverage 4 separate times, calling the treatment investigational and unproven, despite promising early results. Each therapy session cost exactly $200, required twice weekly, with no guarantee of success, but representing Oren's only chance at slowing the disease progression. Ansel had already exhausted his entire life savings, maxed out 7 different credit cards, sold his truck, his prized Harley motorcycle, even his wedding ring that had belonged to our grandfather. When that still wasn't enough, he started organizing the poker games, not to gamble away money, but to host them and take small percentage cuts to desperately scrape together treatment funds when grandma's monthly checks fell short. I followed him one Thursday night around midnight, expecting to catch him at some sleazy underground casino downtown. Instead, I watched him carry his 8-year-old son, who could barely hold his head up anymore, into a clinical research facility. The late hours were because they offered significantly reduced rates for families who couldn't afford standard pricing during regular business hours. Through the glass doors, I saw Ansel sitting in that sterile waiting room, clutching Oren like he might disappear forever. His hands were visibly shaking, and I could see him whispering what looked like prayers or promises. That's when I realized exactly what I had to do, and it would require destroying my brother to save him. The next morning, I called our cousin Cressida, who's a family law attorney specializing in elder care cases. Ansel's been systematically stealing from Evelyn, I said, sliding the entire evidence folder across her kitchen table. We need to file for emergency guardianship immediately, before he completely drains her accounts and leaves her destitute. Cressida went completely pale reading through the meticulously organized documents. Jesus Christ, this is serious federal crime territory. Elder abuse, mail fraud, check forgery. This could destroy him legally and financially forever. He'd never practice his trade again, never get decent employment. That's exactly what I'm counting on, I said quietly, watching her face change. Here's what Cressida didn't know, but I discovered during my weeks of surveillance and research. Emergency guardianship automatically triggers a comprehensive financial audit of the elderly person's entire care situation. The court would immediately freeze all of Evelyn's assets, launch a full investigation into her living conditions, and scrutinize every single dollar that had been spent on her behalf over the previous 5 years. What they'd inevitably find was something I'd stumbled across while researching Evelyn's nursing home billing statements. Holloway residents had been systematically overcharging residents for nearly 3 years running. Fake physical therapy sessions, grossly inflated medication costs, charging families for services never actually provided, even billing for recreational activities that never happened. The state attorney general's office was already quietly building a massive class action case, but they desperately needed actual victims to come forward and provide documentation. The lawsuit settlement would be substantial, easily enough to cover Oren's experimental treatment for years while ensuring Evelyn received proper care. Ansel never knew I orchestrated his complete salvation through his total downfall.